Well, we're one of the largest, I think, organization in the country to represent working people. And in that context, we have a fundamental responsibility to ensure that our voice is heard in regard to this debate. This debate, I think, for too long has been centered around whether or not you can get more RSP or whether or not you can get a greater tax cut. And our demand is simply to say a pension actually has value in Canadian society, and most importantly, pension that pays a good benefit should have value. And our voice is to ensure that in this debate, the Labour has a prominent role to play, and more importantly, relying on the public system actually benefits Canadians to a large extent. Despite this entire economic and financial crisis, we have seen that not too many Canadians are worrying whether or not the CPP check is going to come in the mail. And that's a very important statement. We know the CPP has always been there to give us the benefit that we've paid for. But we also know at the same time it doesn't provide a lot of benefits, so we need to, of course, double that benefit in terms of this campaign. Well, the horror about the stories that I've heard and have been repeated many times, there are workers who have understood with their negotiation they were giving up money so they can put aside, they will have a decent retirement when they get to 30 or 35 years after a long life of work. What these workers are finding out, despite all of the commitment, only to find out after they've been retired or about to retire that the company didn't fund the pension plan to the full commitment they have made. And more importantly, they end up paying the price again. Despite actually deferring their wages to pay for the plan, they find out the employer didn't actually put the money into the plan. And more importantly, the plan is underfunded. And they, of course, are the ones who have to suffer as a result of this. And the horror of that, of course, quite often these workers, of course, are much older now. They can't go back to work. And they were relying on their pension to ensure they can finish the rest of their years with some decency in their retirement. And of course, only to find out that all of their sacrifice they've made in past in, of course, deferring their wages for their pension is no longer there. And more importantly, the politicians who were supposed to ensure that it was regulated properly aren't taking any responsibility. So that's the worst of both worlds. One is the employer didn't fund it, and of course the people you're relying on to regulate it didn't do anything, and of course they refused to take any responsibility for the crisis. Well, it's threefold. I think Labour's demands are very simply, one is to improve the CPP so workers and all Canadians who get CPP will get a better benefit at the end of the day compared to what is currently being paid. Second, obviously, is to improve the protection for seniors in this country who are getting the OAS or GIS to ensure that they don't continue to live in poverty, and we want to ensure that those workers who have given a lifetime of commitment to the country aren't essentially living in poverty. And third, of course, is to ensure we can protect private pension plan in the event the company go bankrupt. That basically is to have an insurer system that would insure private pensions from the protection of bankruptcy. Well, this campaign for us is very fundamental and basic in regards to mobilizing and educating our members. First and foremost, they need to understand what this crisis have done to, of course, put their pension in jeopardy. And at the same time, I think there's never been a better moment in our country to improve the public pensions. Because, of course, the crisis have exposed to a large extent that buying RSP is not the solution. While we've done a really good job in negotiating good pension benefits for our members, we also know we have to ensure that that benefit is there at the end of the day when you're ready to collect. And in that regard, of course, we're proposing, of course, a pension insurance scheme. But to a large extent, the bigger debate is really how we can improve the lot for all Canadians that belong to the CPP. It's the most important aspect of the campaign. It's fundamental that we can double the benefit from the CPP at very little cost. At the same time, I think it provides the best vehicle for ensuring that Canadians enjoy the same benefit from coast to coast. Regardless of where you work, who you work for, you can always belong to the CPP. And more importantly, regardless of where you may retire and live at the end of the day, you can still get your benefit. And there's no better program in this country that can give you that degree of benefit than the CPP.